So today we're going to talk about emotional cartographies of desires. But first of all, what are emotions? What are cartographies? What are desires? I guess you have already Googled them, but let's do it just in case. Emotions or emotional is spiritual, inner, psychic, psychological, poignant, moving, touching, affecting. You have like a million different synonyms to describe them. It's quite difficult to get to know what really emotions are. If we take a look at the Google Ngram Viewer, which is a tool developed by Google, in which what you see is depicted the amount of times that word has appeared in all the publications that Google has in its database regarding to the dates. We can see that while the term emotion has fallen in the late centuries, emotional has been rising. So I think that's a good point to start from. Cartography is quite surprising. It only has one sentence. Cartography is the science or practice of drawing maps. This is quite surprising because Google uses all the descriptions of every term they have in every dictionary in their database. So if cartography is only one sentence, that must mean something. This is even more surprising because if we check the Ngram Viewer, we can see that in the last century, cartography, the use of the word cartography, has risen amazingly. Even right now, we're at the peak moment of its use. Desire is fantastic. It's the only term of the three of them that starts with different information that is not only text. We can see images, we can see even songs. Desires are things that push us forward, they're things that makes us want to change. Surprisingly as well, the term desire has fallen quite a lot and is still falling today, so I think we should take a chance and maybe make them rise again. If we compare all of them, this is also quite significant because even though desire has been falling, it's the one that's been most used. And this could also make us maybe rename the session today. Maybe we're not talking about emotional cartographies of desires, maybe we're talking about our desire for emotional cartographies. But what are cartographies? What you're seeing now is an emotional map of Stockport. Cartographies are maps. Maps are depictions of relationships between things, between information. Many cartographies start with a physical map, but in this case, the cartography started in the physical map of Stockport, but as soon as we get close to it, we see that the physical information starts disappearing and other types of information start getting into the cartography. We can see drawings, we can see lines, we can see bars, we can see colors, we can see definitely layers. Cartographies are constructed by layers that overlay one from each other, that each of them has a specific depiction and a specific way of drawing so that we can see what pieces of information belong to one of each layers. These layers are overimposed to each other. All the elements contained in each of the layers are connected to each other, but then other type of connections appear as well, connections between the different layers. Cartographies are also hectic. Here you can see a cartography by Larissa Fessler. She's an artist and her work tries to envision that urban contexts are not only defined by plants but by many other different things. She is hectic because she draws everything she sees, and even though she's not as pedagogical as Noel was, we can also from the depiction make a difference in between the layers that she's drawing. We can see that the blue responds to the measures. We can see that the orange is an underground path. We can see that the pink is a surface pavement. At the end, the depiction is enough to see what different layers are in this cartography. But that was not the only cartography she made. She made other cartographies from the same place. In the end, the cartography is about making decisions. What do we want to depict? What layers are important? What information must we add? Or what should we discard? Yes, you're right, this is the hardest part. Larissa made 3 different cartographies from the same place. Well, she published 3, but she maybe or probably made million more. Even though the starting point was the same for all these three cartographies, you can see the results are extremely different. Depiction is essential, and making decisions is essential as well. Which of them is more interesting? Well, that's for you to decide. The cartographies we've seen before, both of them, where their starting point was a map, was a physical map, a map of a territory. But this is not always the main parameter. Here in this cartography by Mark Lombardi, we can see that the main parameter is time. Time is depicted in these three horizontal lines, and other information start crossing over them. Even though this cartography seems visually simpler than the other two, we can still make a difference between the layers that are in them. We can see that the events are in circles, that the people are not, that the arrows indicate the direction and the connection of the different elements. In the end, what they have in common is that each of these artists, what is doing is creating an own graphical system to depict what they want to show in their photographies. Obviously, not every time this is so simple. Not every time you can argue everything in the linearity of time, or you can argue everything in the physical territory. Sometimes other types of relations are necessary. In the end, space and time are only parameters. What really determines a cartography is which elements are close to each other, which of them are farther, which are bigger, which are smaller. Are elements inside other elements, or are all of them the same? This is topology, topological relationships. Topology deals with the spatial and the structural properties of geometric objects. Independently of the object itself, it is working between the relations. In the end, it's geometry. Are the elements in line? Are them in tree? Are them in a ring, in a mesh, in a star? Is everything connected? Is it not? Are all the connections the same? Do they all go to the same point? Is it decentralized? Is it distributed? Are objects contained into other objects? Are they touching? Are they not? Are they summing, or are they resting? This as well is another cartography. This cartography was made by the Office for Political Innovation for the Venice Biennale, and it's a very particular cartography because it's three-dimensional. In this cartography, the objects are not drawings. The objects are small objects, casual objects that we find in our everyday lives, and those are that is like the code to depict the different informations or the different parameters. Those objects have specific properties. That's why they have colors, that's why they have sizes, and those specific properties are related to each other. Here the relations are not arrows or are not lines, they're not overimposed, they're touching. They're touching and they're bigger or smaller. This is how we can read this geometry and this cartography. And in the end, this cartography is a representation of a home represented by the inner objects it contains. And in a way, what it's doing is turning the home upside down and showing its properties in a new code, in a new different way. Well, to sum up, all these people were trying the same. They were making these cartographies for only one reason: to get conclusions. Cartographies, their main purpose is to be able to show the reality, the complex reality, or a complex reality we want to show, in all its let's say complexity, and with all that complexity shown and depicted and layered and graphed, we can start tracing different conclusions that maybe in the first time were not obvious. And this is what you're going to have to do next. What are your desires? What are your variables? What are your potentials? What layers should you put them on? What are the potentials in your environment? What is around you that really makes a difference? What is, in the end, the emotional cartography of your own desires?